Not only did he demonstrate, but he participated. Not only did he participate, but he was able to change laws and make things different in the country in which we live. Now we're on the threshold of things being turned back. And so we pray that you would continue to strengthen us, that we might step forward and not let the hands of time get turned back again. Amen. Grateful for those persons that are here. Thank you for those that are on their way. And we appreciate the panelists. Amen. Amen. I am going to ask that one of the major sponsors that is partnering with us today would come forward and have some opening remarks. And that is none other than the first African-American female president of the City Council in Newark, New Jersey, Sister Mildred Crump.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I love Reverend Jefferson to life. We so often say, I love you to death. No, I don't love anybody to death. I love you to life. I have a personal relationship with Reverend, the pastor of this great church. I was trying to say the name. My husband and he worked together for about 25 years. And it was a glorious friendship. And I was able to be the recipient of the brilliance of the pastor of this church. And so I want to thank him for inviting me to have a significant role to play today on this very, very important opportunity and day for us. We should never forget how we got where we are. Somebody should be clapping by now. We should never forget how we got where we are. And so today we're going to explore and talk about the what, why, who, where, and the outcome. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll be back before you soon. I certainly want to thank all the members, my favorite mayors in the house. How about that? My favorite senator is in the house. And of course, I said that. Certainly. How shall I refer to him? To my adopted son and pastor, none other than, there are two actually, so let me do them at the same time. The Honorable Derek Green, and certainly who are doing a phenomenal job. Yes. And you make the governor look good. You can tell him I said that too. And certainly the Reverend Dr. Steffi Bartley. We're joined by two men who also have made their marks here, not just in Newark, but around the country. And we're delighted to have all of you with us today. Take care.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have tons of questions and answers. We intend to have a dialogue, a conversation, have you ask questions, deal with problems, talk about solutions, etc. This is not a huge speech day. This is a day to have a dialogue with the people. Amen? But here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to just hold on for just a moment. I think Sister Crump has already kind of gone down the line. Amen? Come on, let's give it up for our senator. Come on, let's give it up for our senator, Senator Menendez. Come on, you all got to stand on that. Yeah, let's give it up for our senator, Senator Menendez. Now, the reason y'all need to clap for him because we need to make sure we hold the line here with respect to what's going on in Washington. We need to get federal workers back to work, but we need to make sure that we have a backbone in the Democratic Party, and our senator and Corey are going to make sure that happens. Amen? So let's give him another hand. Next, I want to introduce, come on, Derek. Come on, Brother Derek, Dr. Derek Green. Amen. Come on, Steve. Steve is with us today from McKinsey, and he brought someone. Come on, you all stand as well. Amen. I need everybody from McKinsey to stand. There you go. Come on, there you go. There you go. He's flamboyant. He's debonair. He's also bright. He's brilliant. And he's moving Newark by leaps and bounds. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for American Mayor. This is American Mayor, Mayor Red Baraka. Come on, American Mayor. Come on, let's give it up for Red. Come on. Come John Harmon, I just want John to, come on, John. John, I have to speak about John. John is down in Trenton. He has all of the stuff he's doing with the African American Commerce Department. And let me just tell you, he has really moved some stuff forward in the state. He's getting a ton of cooperation from the governor now, which he didn't get from the previous governor. And as a result of that, I just want to commend him for the work that he's doing. So, John, will you please stand? Amen. And the only someone I know that has ever been on The Apprentice who was willing to tell Donald Trump to go to you know what. Come on, Randall, my fraternity brother. Come on, let's Randall Pickey. Come on, outstanding entrepreneur. Come on, Randall, outstanding entrepreneur. And my friend who now runs all of the National Action Network for the Northeast region.
That's right.
For the Northeast region. And he does a ton of stuff. I don't know how he does it all, but he does a ton of stuff and support a lot of stuff. My friend, Dr. Stephanie Barclay. Come on, let's give him a round of applause. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome once again, come on, our Senator, Senator Menendez. I'm going to ask him to come and view his remarks, please. Come on.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Reverend Jefferson, and it's good to be back at Metropolitan, certainly on Dr. King Day. And I, just for the record, I am here after the election. So, after the election. And to thank so many of you who were very helpful throughout that process as well, including Reverend Jefferson and the mayor and Councilwoman Crump and others. I think about how I started my day-to-day, which was down outside of Atlantic City in Little Egg Harbor with hundreds of federal employees who are in the midst of having to show up to work, but without a paycheck for the second time in a month, for 4 weeks. And the struggle that they're having as I listened to them with the challenges of not being able to put food on the table, going to a food pantry, not being able to pay child care, which they need to get to the work that they're mandated to go to but don't get paid for, and a whole host of other challenges. And I think about that there is no reason on earth why we should have the federal government closed down with not just 800,000 federal employees, but also with their families and federal contractors who also don't get paid, with employees, many who are making minimum or low wages at the end of the day, and they will have no recompense whatsoever when this is all over. So it's really a couple of million fellow Americans who are affected by what is going on, simply to build a monument to the president's ego on something that won't ultimately work. And so for $6 billion, there's a lot of better ways. I'd rather put $6 billion into creating capital and access to capital. I'd rather create $6 billion in creating 2 new Trans-Hudson tunnels. I'd like to create $6 billion where I could create educational opportunity for so many in our nation, and so much more. So when I think about Dr. King on this very special day, there are so many ways to think about him. He died on the verge of helping workers to ultimately organize. So we recognize those workers and his legacy in that regard. But also, in addition to the social justice that he promoted, I think about the economic agenda that he had, and understanding that that was critical to move forward. So for me, as going to listen to part of this distinguished panel as long as I can, because I have an interview at 4:30, but I believe that an agenda that I have been pursuing as a senior member of the Senate Finance Committee that deals with all tax policy, trade policy, and healthcare, and a senior member of the Senate Banking Committee that deals with banking and housing related issues, is an access to capital agenda, which starts with ending the payday lender and the check cashing place and being the portal of entry to our community in terms of financial services, banking those who do not have a banking institution, making sure that we build credit at the end of the day for individuals at that scale, then access to capital for small and mid-sized businesses. My multi-billion-dollar CDFI would be a tremendous opportunity to create access to that capital. Then unbundling federal contracts so that, in fact, many from our communities who have the ability to perform extraordinarily well, But when you have a multi-billion-dollar contract, you can't get the bonding for the performance, you get the bonding for the bid. It's impossible to be able to get an opportunity at that. So unbundling federal contracts is something that I've been working hard, and now that we have a majority in the House, I hope some of these things we can actually make happen. My Fortune 100 survey that I do as the senior Hispanic in the United States Senate, a Fortune 100 survey that looks at the corporate boardrooms, at senior executive management, at procurement of services, and I don't mean just janitorial services, of legal services, of banking services, of all of the services, which has put pressure on the corporate Fortune 100 to be more responsive. And by showing the data, being able to say that clearly people of color are underrepresented in corporate board, senior executive management, and the procurement. How do we change that? Good for companies, because more diverse companies actually, and study after study show that the bottom line is better. Also good for those who are on those corporate boards to direct monies and investment into our communities. Incredibly important. Then lastly, making sure that Wall Street is equally as responsive. We have money managers that have the capital, the ability, and the opportunity to make those investments, whether it be on behalf of a state pension fund or major companies, from the check cashing place and the payday lender to Wall Street. This is an access to capital agenda that I'm going to continue to push in the United States Senate. And now with the majority and some of my colleagues in the House who think this way, working with the Black and Hispanic caucuses, I hope it's an opportunity to make it happen. Thank you very much, and happy Martin Luther King Day.
So we promised that we were going to have a dialogue and a conversation. We're going to start that now. And do we have mics that we're going to have kind of going back and forward? So let me just start with the first question. I want to piggyback on something that the senator just said. When I came out of graduate school, one of the things that we had, which was absolutely phenomenal, and that is we had the NAACP, we had the Urban League, we had Rainbow Push that was holding companies accountable for their diversity targets. And as a result of that, young people could come out of college with at least some expectation that if they were prepared, that they were going to be able to get an opportunity in corporations. What we have found is that some of the stats indicate that many spots on boards have gone down with respect to minorities, and therefore many corporations are no longer really focused on hiring young African Americans that are coming out of college, which causes kids then to raise the question as to why do you want to get an education, come out with a high loan, and you can't get a real job. And so the question is, and I really want to, I want to go right now to John Harmon, and I want to start with John because I believe that there's a question to be put on the table, and that is, what can the African American Chamber of Commerce also do to encourage corporations to make sure that their diversity, quote, agenda is solid? And so we're going to ask John to really focus on that.
Well, I thank you for the question, and we thank you all for coming here today. And as the pastor was framing the question, I wrote the word accountability without even hearing the question. I think there are a number of things to do. As African Americans, we represent about 15% of New Jersey's population, and that percentage is about the same across the United States. From a consumer spending perspective, we spend $1.3 trillion annually. So that in itself should give us access to the conversation. The conversation all should lead to some level of reciprocity. So one of the things that we're proposing going forward in New Jersey is that for the utilities across the state, who you're talking about the telecoms, the gas and electric, water, they do what they call a state assessment, where they report internally about their spend in terms of contracts and hires for African Americans and others. And you should know this, that when you look at all these numbers, African Americans are at the bottom. And it was our efforts, Dr. King and others, that got policy for women and people of color to be considered, but nonetheless, we're still at the bottom. So what I'm saying is that we have to be more diligent in holding folks accountable. In our consumer spend, Dr. King, when they had the boycott in Montgomery, they didn't ride the buses, but as a result of that, that brought that economy to look at our relevance from a consumer standpoint. In exchange for our patronage, there should be job opportunities and contract opportunities. So here in New Jersey, there's no reporting out from the private sector in terms of the monies that's being spent and given back in terms of contracts. The governor and the legislators are starting to move on a disparity study to stand up goals to get the public sector in a better space. But unless both public and private are properly aligned, some believe that they don't have to be obligated to have some reciprocity. So I'll close with this. The African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey, day in and day out, is challenging corporations here in the state of New Jersey to accept diversity as an economic imperative. Through economic diversity, it's not an emotional imperative. You get the mosaic right, but if you want to win and be successful, you've got to have diversity. In sports, it's about championships. But in business, it gets rather subjective, and they're hiring their friends and their colleagues, but not leveraging diversity to get the best outcome. So that's what we're advocating for, and we're starting to get some results, but we need more people in this room to understand that the economic inclusion and leveraging of those resources is critical to transforming our communities. It's not the emotional piece. We got to go in and challenge folks. And the mayor is doing a lot here in the city of Newark. I'm hearing from corporations in Newark as a result of his leadership. So if all black mayors across New Jersey, I want to stop, but I keep going here. It's easy to indict other folks, but we got to step up. If we have ownership of these municipalities and leadership in these corporations, we got to think about our folks as well.
A follow-up is this.
I'm
A
sorry,
follow-up
I'm
is
wrong
this.
on that.
And here's a major one, and I'm going to go to the mayor on this one as we get ready to kind of have the mic. I'm going to go to the mayor on this one. And that is what was just said is absolutely on the money. Here's the issue. The issue is that I remember in 73, 74, 75, 76, there was a published scorecard that fundamentally represented if corporations therefore kind of had an A, B, or C based upon their stats. And one of the great things is that since we've now taken over the House, we have an initiative that our senator just stated that is now on the table for us to hold corporations accountable. That's coming out of Congress. But now we got to also get it down to the local level. And so the question then is, what kind of, quote, report data will we have so that the ordinary people can see how corporations are doing and what kind of progress is being made, and how do we engage then the average family person so that they will know what's going on? And I'm going to ask the mayor to kind of talk to that with respect to Newark, and that is, do we have a report card? Do we intend to have one? How do we intend to hold corporations accountable? How do we try and make sure that kids from Newark return to Newark because they know that they will be able to get a job in Newark, right? So we're going to throw that one to the mayor.
So I just want to thank Pastor Jefferson, of course, always for hosting this for us, and I just want to echo what John said. The work that they're doing, the Chamber of Commerce is unparalleled in terms of what's happening in the state. The kind of pressure that they put on these folks allow us to do the work that we're doing here. We have something called Hire by Live, and the interesting thing is that there are folks in the city, and our job is to buttress what's right and what's good, to force the corporations to do what they're supposed to do. We're so busy trying to tear apart or find the weaknesses in what we put together as opposed to supporting it, because what you do then is you make the corporations believe that we're not together.
That's right.
But even in that space, we've allowed PSE&G has increased this. So we came in, the procurement in Newark was under 10%, right? Everybody, even the city itself was a little over 10%. Newark's procurement now is about 35% of the city government, right? And that's still too low for city government, right? That means that 35% of our contracts are being spent locally here with residents in the city of Newark. PSE&G went up, Rutgers went up, Prudential is going up. Everybody's going up because of hire by live. Should they go up more? Absolutely. I mean, they're at 8, then they go up to 15, and then they tell you that they're at the roof.
Right.
Well, you want to let them know they're at the first floor. But we need support. No, honestly, we need support to push them further and further and further. Even with our kids going to college, right? So Rutgers increased this enrollment. It was at 60. Now they're at 80%. 80% of the, more. They increased their enrollment by 80%, right? That forced NJIT through conversation to say we're going to add an additional 350 students in the next couple of years to NJIT, right? So these are the kind of things that you have to do to get them to say we're going to support Newark residents, get our kids in college, use their procurement dollars here locally, but more importantly, hire Newark residents. So we just basically got them on the ground floor of entry level and management level kind of jobs, trying to bring people in through Newark 2020. And we have to get them to the higher level. So just us talking about it, right? Just us saying that we are putting together a system to monitor it, and it's not even at 100%, like full transparency. The hire by live, the Newark 2020 is not even working at full throttle. There's still so many kinks in it that we have to work out, but even putting it on the table has increased the employment for Newark residents, which means that we should be working harder collectively to make the thing perfect, right? And to put more pressure on them if just by mentioning it and putting it on the table has forced them to increase their folks of Newark residents working there, which helped us to decrease unemployment in the city of Newark at record levels because they began to start hiring Newark people on an entry level and management level jobs. It's a lot more work to do, trust me. But we need a louder voice than just the apparatus of city government saying, this is what we want to do. They need to know that the folks support this kind of work, and if the work is not being done, are going to raise their voices about it.
Right. Come on, I think that's, and by the way, we will have someone running with a mic, so please raise your hand if you have a question while you're getting ready. Let me just go to another question that was given to me. And that is, entrepreneurship is absolutely essential. The engine for the creation of jobs in our community is normally fueled primarily by small and mid-sized businesses. Randall has, as an entrepreneur, had all kinds of trials and tribulations. But it is important as we work with corporations to create jobs, we also need to work with corporations so that entrepreneurs get contracts from those companies as well. And so I'm going to ask Randall to therefore speak to the question of job creation through entrepreneurship, and what would you see as a strategy to get more companies to therefore partner with African entrepreneur companies so that you can have more business.
So I want to echo the thanks from the other panelists, Pastor and fraternity brother Jefferson. That would be Alpha Phi Alpha for those that did not know. And thanks for the question, by all means. The comments from the senator and the mayor and from John, I think are all in harmony in that entrepreneurs are what connects all the dots at the end of the day. And I've been in business for 25 years. I started my first business when I was in college at Rutgers, selling what young people, including my daughter, don't know. It's called compact discs. I asked some young people if they know what a compact disc was. They said, "You mean the big black circle?" I said, "That's a record, dude." So I've been in business for quite a long time, but I moved my business to Newark in 2008, 11 years ago. We moved to Newark because we wanted to be a part of the economic renaissance and be a part of job creation and be a part of a community led by a mayor like Ras Baraka, where we could create opportunity for residents that they otherwise wouldn't have opportunity. And if you look at employers across our country, 99.7% of all employers are small business. 99.7%. Wow. of all employers are small business. And if you want to ask where are jobs created, 75% of net new jobs are created by small business. The perception is that it's corporations, that they're the ones driving job growth. And so when there's a layoff, we all cry as though something terrible has happened. What we don't see happening, though, is that the jobs are being created on your block, in your community, on that corner, and in the neighborhood. And if you ask the other question, where is wealth created? If you ask every millionaire in America, how did you make your millions? From the lottery, from savings, from inheritance, from investing in the stock market, from whatever you want to term it, 8 out of every 10 millionaires will tell you they made their millions by owning a business. 8 out of 10. So do the math on that. If you want to create more jobs, small business. If you want to create more wealth, entrepreneurship. Now, this will offer one last stat, because I'm an engineer, so stick with my numbers here. I'm going to give you a number right here from the census, which is the black businesses and the unemployment. So, rough numbers, just follow my math. There's about 13 million unemployed Americans, roughly 13 million. That number's probably changed recently. As John mentioned, we're about 13% of the population, African Americans. So take that 13%, you get about 1.8 million unemployed African Americans. 1.8 million, stick on that number, 1.8 million. How many black-owned businesses in the country? 1.9 million. Okay, I got a couple of ahas. Let me break the math down for you. That means if every black business created one job, there you go, the math just hit you, created one job, you would not only eclipse the black unemployment problem, you would surpass the problem. So the rallying cry that we need really is, how do we rally around creating more entrepreneurs like me who start young, can fail over and over, have enough runway to succeed, and stand here today in Newark with a multi-million-dollar business. That's what we need.
And what is very, very powerful, there's a hand, so there's a hand back there. What is powerful about that is this. We have to not just kind of get consumed in the notion that we have access. We need to have a strategy for success. And oftentimes when we have a forum like this where we get information, what ends up happening is that we do not have a strategy for execution. Because we're very episodic and event-driven.
That's right, that's right.
As opposed to therefore having a plan where there's daily execution.
That's right.
And that has to come from us. You know, we've invited some people here today that are on the front line. But what has to come from us is we have to have a partnership and get with them to make sure that there is a plan, and we have to support them in the daily execution of that plan. Because we'll come back next year on MLK Day not having accomplished anything, and we'll repeat what the plan is, what something is, right? Are you all with me? Right? And so as a result of that, I think it's very important for us to sometime get into the nitty-gritty. The reason we changed the format this year is because I had a ton of people last year who said that it was fantastic. But what we need is a town hall where we can talk issues, where we can have conversation, where we can get down to the nitty-gritty, where we can deal with stuff that is talked about at the table with these kids and with families. And that's why they're here today, right? There is a hand in the rear. Come on, all the way back, and then we're going to come up here. Go right ahead. Please stand. Thank you.
Thank you. So my question is about legalization of marijuana. I want to know if there's any pathways to secure funding for minority groups in Newark that want to explore business options in this possibly billion-dollar industry that's about to explode. And my second question is specific to nursing. I'm finding a lot of students that have been granted marijuana cards or will want jobs as nurses under the legalization of marijuana. And is there a nursing coalition to start research on how do we employ nurses that could be under the influence of marijuana?
Okay, so I think there are two levels. One is at the state level. And I think this is where Dr. Green can help. And then the other one is at the local level with our mayor. And he can give us an update as to what and how then we're looking at that on a local level. So let's go with the state first, and then we'll come to our mayor secondly. Did we get, you got the question, that's the question, right? Okay, let's go.
A couple of things on that. One, the state right now, medical marijuana is legal in the state of New Jersey. Recreational use is not. But to answer your question related to the businesses associated with medical marijuana, the answer is yes. And what you can do is the Department of Health regulates the medical marijuana licenses in the state. And I can give you my information after and give you a direct contact with the Department of Health so that you can then set up a meeting, and I'll help you set up that meeting as well.
And where do we stand with the legislation?
The legislation, right now, there are drafts of the legislation, and one of the big components of that is the social impact right now. So in other words, it's not fair that on a Friday, a brother gets put in jail for selling a small amount of marijuana, and then on Monday, it's now turned into cannabis. It's now legal, right? So what happens to that young man or young woman on that Monday? And so there are some social justice aspects of the bill that have to be improved, I know, before this governor signs off on it.
All right. Mr. Mayor.
Well, I think most of the stuff you're saying, none of that stuff really exists at this point. You know, just to be 100% honest, there is no pathway for African Americans to invest in this industry. There's no fund set aside for African Americans. I mean, there are people talking about it, but there's no fund set aside for that. I don't think that we've contemplated it at that level. You know, as Derek pointed out, Reverend pointed out, we are still wrestling around the issue of expungement and what the amount should be. I mean, there's the discussion about the amount of grams that they're going to expunge, and really what the legislation is set to do now is really to you know, help people who are buyers of marijuana and not sellers or sellers of it, right? So the quantity that they would expunge is the amount that you would have if you went and purchased it, right? So and they're hiding behind this idea of kingpin, but the reality is a young kid on 17th and Clinton Avenue with a little bit more grams than purchasing, who is selling it out there, is obviously not the kingpin, but would not have his record expunged in this present you know, iteration of the law, which is why it needs to be changed and why we're struggling with them to get that done. I can't support it at that level. I don't think the governor, hopefully, is not going to support it at that level either, that there is a discussion about you can't keep people in jail while people are making millions of dollars. I mean, it just can't happen. It's just not right. And there's, as the point that you raised back there, you know, there has to be a pathway, even if you're not involved in the actual business of cannabis itself, but all of the ancillary businesses that will develop and grow as a result of cannabis, whether it's marketing or accounting or the tech support or transportation, all of those things. There should be pathways for people in our community to be able to benefit. Frankly, the state is not going to be able to make any money unless places like Newark, Trenton, Camden, Jersey City goes and legalizes it or creates a pathway in those cities, because that's where it's going to be purchased at, by the way. So we have to really think about this as we go forward.
And to your point, and that's a great question, to your point, we really need to stay on top of this. This is not one where we can just have, let's say, a one-time conversation. This is one where the community and voices like pastors and others need to help shape the outcome, given the impact that it will have. We cannot let something come out and then complain about it once it comes out. And we have not been engaged in helping to therefore make sure that we shape it. All right? Come on, come on.
This is one of those cases that I believe is, you know, the cart comes before the horse. I want to share with you, the other day a young lady made an appointment, and she was determined that she was going to speak to me that day. And so I yielded and I said, certainly, come on up at 4 o'clock. And she sat down and began to tell me about herself. And I respond to this question because it was asked by a young woman. And I find that more and more young women are inserting themselves into this conversation. And so I said to her, well, what do you want? What's the outcome of this conversation? And she said to me, I want to become the first African-American woman to own a dispensary. Now, you know what the dispensary is. It's a fancy word for the drugstores, as I call it. Sorry, Senator. So the point that I want to make is make certain, and I want to thank both the state, the governor, and Derek, and the entire team for preparing people for what the reality is. I watch Jersey Matters. I don't know how many of you watch it. I don't get a chance, but it's an excellent, it's a topical TV show, and you know, they address issues. If you have a chance to listen to that particular program, I have to say that, Derek, this is one of the best programs that outlines what the process is, but also tells the truth about the other side of it. And so I just wanted to respond to this young lady.
Thank you. The other thing too that, and we're gonna get more hands here. The other thing too that I just want to make note of quickly is this: we need to be equipped with data, and we need to be equipped with facts.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many things I go to, or how many people come to me, given the number of folks that we're blessed to have as parishioners here. No data, no facts, and it's a lot of emotion.
Yes.
We really need to have civil discussions around what? Data and facts, and understand what it is that we're absolutely talking about. And one of the folks that I believe have done an outstanding job, because it's very difficult for people to do what I call data mining. And that is knowing where to go to mine the data so that you can absolutely represent what the real deal is. But McKinsey has helped a lot. And Steve and his folks have really peeled the onion to kind of come up with data to help support certain strategies, positions, and plans. And I want him to just kind of speak a little bit, and we're going to go back to the next set of questions from the audience today. But I want Steve to just kind of speak a little bit about data and facts as it relates to black wealth, et cetera, because I think you'll be amazed with respect to some of this. Randall got into some of it a few minutes ago, but I would encourage all of us to equip ourselves with data and facts. How many of y'all believe that that's what really speaks? Yeah. Right? At the end of the day, that's what really speaks. So I want to ask him to do that now.
Pastor, thank you. And I also just want to say thank you for being here today. I'm thrilled to be up here with this group to talk about these topics. And as you remember from last year, I do like to come with facts and figures. And in this case, I'm coming with some facts and figures. And maybe if you just give me a few minutes, I'll take you through some of them. My colleagues and Dwayne, who's sitting here, led some research on black wealth creation. So at McKinsey, we're very focused on how does the black community create wealth and generate income and start businesses. And we did some extensive research last year. And we looked at 4 elements of wealth creation. One is community wealth. So the communities that the black community lives in, the environments they're in, are they conducive to growing businesses and to succeeding? And what we found is that the black community, because of being concentrated in areas where growth is not as significant, that we think the black community is missing out on about $33 billion in income every year.
Write this down. Write this
down.
So
$33 billion in lost opportunity. A second factor that's incredibly important in wealth creation is family wealth. When you're starting out a business, it always helps to have an inheritance, maybe a home that you can take a mortgage against, or family members or a network that can provide seed funding for your business.
That's right.
Again, we found structural challenges for black families who have 1/6 the amount of ready cash on average that white families do. So when they hit a crisis, the money's not there. We also found that the level of inheritance in black families is far below that of white families. So when you need money to start your business or to pay off college loans, it's not there. The third element of wealth creation is family income. That's the opportunity to get access to the best opportunities in the businesses you start or the companies you join. And we found that the average black man over his lifetime makes $900,000 less than the average white man. And for black females, it's $200,000 less. And black males are not participating in the workforce for as long as their white male counterparts because they get laid off sooner and it's harder to re-enter the workforce, which is also affecting the ability to make money. And finally, we talk about family savings, and that's the access to the support to make money and to save money and sustain that over time, so to create wealth and to save it. And black families, white families are 6 times more likely to have a banking relationship than a black family, which is an incredibly challenging fact. The other is black families are less likely to have insurance than white families. Therefore, when they run into problems, black families, it's harder to rebound from those problems, whether it be a health crisis or whatever it is. There's many facts in this research that go deep, but what's clear is these are not individual or personal issues. These are structural and systemic issues. And they are issues that have to be addressed not just by the black community, but by all of us. That is clear. And the fact, to your point, Pastor, this is why I believe the facts are so important, because that's what will draw people to this issue, is understanding the facts and the depth of the challenges that the black community is facing in generating and saving their wealth. I would like to say one thing in terms of solutions, because I do think there are solutions to this. Dwayne and my colleagues, they spent time with hundreds of black leaders to generate solutions to these problems and came away with 5 solutions. And maybe if I just go through those. One is to create a fund based on opportunity zones that will invest in minority-owned businesses to sort of provide that seed funding. Number 2 is to pilot a financial education and planning program to increase the number of black families and individuals with a financial plan. We have to increase financial education in the black community. 3 is to develop a strategic and impactful political action committee to help identify, develop, and support an increase in the number of black candidates for office. There are not enough black candidates in office, we know that. Create a black community resource list to help people understand and access available resources and economic growth opportunities. So all of you in this room will know where to go to get help when you're trying to start a business, back to Randall's point. And then finally, create a business incubator for supporting and growing black businesses and a training and development program for talented black entrepreneurs and leaders. Randall and I were talking about this just before the session and how Cincinnati has done this effectively.
Yes.
We need the same thing here in northern New Jersey.
Yes, yes, yes.
And then maybe just one last comment on this, because I think, back to my point though, this is not a black community issue. This is a collective issue that we have to address. I think it's of critical importance. And I think all of us as leaders have to do a few things. One is to find the moral case and the business case for fixing the challenges of black wealth creation. The moral case is clear. We live in America, it's the land of opportunity. That opportunity has to be available to everybody. But the business case is also clear. If the black community is successful and is starting businesses and is growing in their careers, our businesses will be healthier, our economy will be healthier, our employees will be happier. So the business case is incredibly clear. The second thing is, I think all of us as leaders have to be champions in the organizations that we lead. We have to talk about this issue. We have to make it front and center. It has to be top priority for all of us to fix these challenges. And the third thing I'd say is we have to create opportunities for black candidates and employees. I think too many of the black community are getting shut out of the best opportunities. And when they are getting those opportunities, we're not giving them the mentorship and apprenticeship that they need to succeed. We need to understand the challenges that the black community faces, and we have to help them through those. So I'm honored to be here. And I just want to say from my perspective, and I'm happy to talk about the statistics and facts, and I'm sure Dwayne would spend the next hour talking about those if we could. But what I want to say is personally, you know, this is something that Dr. King focused on, is economic justice, and I feel that this is incredibly important for us collectively as a community to address. So I think it's wonderful that we're all here talking about this topic, and I think it's something that we need to take outside of these four walls and make a top priority for everybody.
Thank you. Come on, that was very well done. Let me just, come on, that was very well done. Listen, the mayor has to go, and he had informed me that, but let me just say this. We just indeed did something. Tech World, through the National Action Network, has been here how long, Dr. Bartley? 2 years, 3? 2 years. I am going to propose the following, and I'll get with the mayor. I don't want to put him on the spot, but I think we ought to create an incubator in Tech World, partnering with corporations and the mayor, and therefore start nurturing, coaching, and helping minority businesses in the city of Newark. And that's combined with what the mayor already had. He has a lot in place. Am I right?
Yeah, they do that now. SEDC do it now.
He has that. He has some of that. He has some of that right now going on. And we're going to fund more of that. We're going to fund more of that, and we're going to do more around that in order to continue to give what the mayor has started a lot more exposure. Does that make sense? A lot more exposure. And in addition to that, the Opportunity Zone. I want to ask the mayor just for 1 minute to talk about the Opportunity Zone Act that was indeed passed.
So I started earlier, you know, some of y'all just came in, so God bless y'all. We first of all, NCDC has trained 50, 60 black businesses, give them the capacity to bond, got them contracting. At our last men's meeting, it was hosted by a gentleman named Sari Morris, who was born and raised on Astor Place in the city of Newark, who's doing the first container home in the state of New Jersey, just got approved, built many, many, many properties in the city of Newark. All of this stuff is happening right before our very eyes. Some people got to mind the work, right? They got to, and we're giving them the opportunities to do that, right? They're not impatient, so they're out here. They're making these things happen, and we're working with them to make sure that these things go on and on and on. So not only NCEDC, but these are the things that we're doing daily. We train people all of the time, right? And they have a fund where they're giving people loans, right? So not only did we give people loans and train them, we're giving small businesses loans and putting them in shared spaces and keeping them there for a year until they can get their revenue and things together. And as I was listening to him speak, I hit John Harmon on the leg. I said, all of the things that he suggested, this is what the guys that they're doing every day. The only problem is they don't have the resources to do it at the level that they need to do it at. So we need to be talking about how to get resources to organizations like John Harmon has to be able to do the things that they're doing every single day. We think about these things daily and monthly to create opportunities for the folks here in the city of Newark. Only city that has a tax abatement law that says you have to have a minority co-developer, not a minority co-developer in order to be a subcontractor, minority co-developer in order to get equity in the development in the property. These things are happening, and training the people so they can become minority co-developers. What you should do, if you have any questions about it, we have the next men's meeting. We have the next one in February, right? February the 8th, you should come, right? And listen to those guys tell you how they benefited from all of these things in place and the businesses that they have going on in the city right now.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Oh, opportunity zones.
Opportunity Zone.
One last thing. Opportunity zones is happening. In fact, Newark was rated at the top of one of the most likely places for people to come and invest for opportunity zones. They're coming here. We've already created a website so people know where the development is happening at. We're working with NCEDC to create a fund, just like the sister talked about in the back, for folks that are local who got a little money, who don't want to invest in Prudential's fund or this fund or that fund, to create our own fund for people of color here in the city so we can invest in our own opportunity zones. That's going to take, a couple of $100,000, maybe $1 million. We need folks to invest in that, to create a local fund to invest in opportunity zones, because many people around the nation are going to come here and invest in the opportunity zones because we at the top 10 of one of the best places to invest. That's put out all over the country. People are coming, they're coming already. We need a local fund that's invested in by people of color. And I know a couple of us got a couple of dollars. I know you're hiding it, but we got a couple of dollars. Get in your backyard, dig that out, the backyard. I know that's where it's at, under your mattress. Get that. I know that's where we put our money at, under your mattress, and invest in this fund and begin to invest in the businesses that are growing in this city. You can see us about that. Huh? Go to NCDC website, and you can look for all of the the projects that are available in the opportunity zones, and a list of where the opportunity zones are actually located in the city of Newark. But we're still working on creating a fund, so I will keep my eyes and ears out for that. If you got a little bit of cash, a little bit of money to invest in a local opportunity zone investment fund here in the city.
Dr. Jefferson, it's important to note that Newark's opportunity zones are rated top 10 in the country. I just said top 10 in the entire country. That's big. That means that development is going to happen. It's top 10 in the entire country.
And so that's why I think before he leaves, we ought to give our honorable mayor a hand for all the great work that he is doing in this city to create jobs to the men. If you have not been to one of his men's meetings, you need to make sure that you're there, because it talks about everything that we're discussing here. One of the things that, as I was listening, again, I'm Pastor Stephanie Bartley, the coordinator of the National Action Network under the leadership of Reverend Al Sharpton. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we were involved with, and that is education, economics, so that we can become part of the solution to having men and women become business owners.
Right.
I own several businesses, and everything that I was listening to really just spoke about who I am and how the first and foremost thing I wanted to make sure that I did, and that was not be afraid. So many times people are afraid to get these great ideas, to open these businesses, and then a lot of times they listen to the wrong people, and they start talking about why you want to do this, why you want to do that. I think that once you get that feeling and this dream that you're going to become an entrepreneur, go for it. Don't just stop if you run into a brick wall, but continue. Because at the end, if you don't quit, you will see just how successful you can really become. And not only can you become as a black person, you then can begin to teach your children. I own several businesses, and I try to make sure that my family is a part of these businesses, so that when I'm dead and gone, the business will continue. That is what a lot of the white partners do. They make sure that grandfather left this, granddaddy left that, and you take that and then you continue to build off of that. One of the things that we've done here in the city of Newark, we partnered with the city of Newark and with Panasonic. We began to hold Panasonic accountable. Here they have their headquarters here in the city of Newark, and they were not giving any type of revenue back into the community. And so as a result of it, under Dr. Jefferson and my leadership, we sat down with the CEO, at that time, Joseph Taylor, to say to them that you're just not going to come here and do nothing. It's going to take us, though. It's going to take, I see Sister Deborah Gregory here from NAACP. It's going to take us as a whole to get involved. Councilwoman McIvory, Monica, and I are working with the Central Ward. They're just revitalizing Garden Spires. Omni has come in, $1 million corporation. And again, we're saying, well, what are you going to do in the community? What are you giving back? And so we partner with them. We have a tech bus, technology, on wheels. You know, we come up, we had the bookmobile, but now it's technology. I try to take tell my daughter, go to her room when she does something, and she's glad to go to her room. But now if I say, give me that telephone or that iPad, then we have some issues. Because technology is the way to go, and we need to start educating our community. And so we are committed. We are partnering also coming up with PSENG to make sure that they're putting some revenue back into the city of Newark. I met with the casino, was it MGM?
Yes.
MGM in Atlantic City with the mayor of Atlantic City to say to them, we need to sit down with all of these casino owners and talk about what they're not doing in the city of Atlantic City to make sure that they start putting the money where they're reaping the money from so that we can do what we need to do. And so the National Action Network, we are part of it, but we need your help. We can't do this on our own. We need your help. And so when you hear the call to come out, protest, rally, whether it's the NAACP or the National Action Network or other organizations, we need you present so that they know that we mean business. And when they know we mean business and that we can talk to their consumers, the people that they would deal with, to make sure that they understand that you need to give back. Because I don't want my grandson to grow up and not be a businessman. He's 4 years old, and I'm already teaching him how to be a successful businessman and not to be satisfied with a few dollars, but become a millionaire. And so thank you. We can do it if we just all come together. Thank you.
There's a hand. Let's take that hand right there, please. Oh, you have one there. Good, good. Let's go. Come on. All right.
Hello.
Hello.
Felicia Simmons. I come from the central of the state, Monmouth County, and I have multiple solutions because I like, I don't rip a Band-Aid off without pouring some ointment. We speak about funding and capital, but there's different programs that we do not, as minorities, benefit from, even though it's supposed to be done on our back. Specifically, the EB-5 visas, where Kushner has made millions and millions and millions of dollars from, that are supposed to, it's a visa program where you pay to come in and get your visa. So they put a certain amount of money in the pot. It goes to these free loans for these big corporations. Well, it should be, and it's supposed to replace jobs. They say you come in this country, you pay, you can replace a job. That money should be placed into communities like ours, minority communities, where it can fund direct businesses and incubate different corporations and different minority businesses. Also, we want to stimulate housing programs. We don't have enough trained, skilled workers in the housing field, right? We have a housing loss. There's also a housing boom. We need to stimulate those growths and turn that money around. And inside of we turning that money around while employing different workers and building in those different things, there's also guidelines inside built in, Title IV, that kind of says minority businesses have to benefit and have to be part of this contracting. We do not hold our municipalities or our towns accountable for these different funds in which we receive these millions and millions of dollars. Then we also have the opportunity zone. I live in a small town that's a mile by square mile. We have three, right? Asbury Park, the biggest little city in the world, right? Jewel of the Shore, right? We have three opportunity zones where they're making billions of dollars. We have billion-dollar corporations that operate our whole waterfront, control a whole side of town, but yet there's only one minority business kiosk on the beach, which receives billions of dollars, and we don't have anyone there to say, look, we need a piece of this. They want to sit up there and talk about diversity. We need a piece. Once we don't want handouts, we want opportunities. So these are different opportunities. And then we go in and train in our schools. We have to get them young. We have to get them early to say, look, right, these are the jobs. This is the future. We train them up now with your hands, and we train them up with your minds, and cut up all the rest of the crap and the nonsense that we have filtered into the school district and school systems, which I served on the Board of Education for over 5 years. We have tons of opportunities. These are cures that we can go in now and do. If we have representation and a joint community, we fight amongst each other, where we need to come together and say, look, we have to stand right now together. I might not like you. I had someone tell me. It was talking about a seminar, and it was a Jewish guy speaking about, I might not like Klein. Klein might not like me, but when I have to buy a hat, I buy it from Klein. When he has to buy some tile, he has to buy it from me. We have to get into that mentality that we have to help ourselves. And also in ourselves, there's things in the system which are made for us that that we do not partake in. We have to be aware of it, and we have to partake in it, and we have to have force like Dr. Jefferson and Steffi and all these beautiful people up there, and Dr. Green and everybody else to come and say, look, they need to take a piece, and we need to promote wealth in ourselves.
Well, we really appreciate you for your solution. Come on. She's out of Mama, right? She drove all the way to Mama to be here to participate and to share this today. All right, next hand. Okay, question?
No, this is.
Go ahead.
This is a question.
And then we'll go. Go right ahead.
Okay, as to your statistics, forgive me, I don't remember your name, the stats that you just brought out. I'm sorry?
Steve?
Steve, yes. With the statistics, which are beautiful, a lot of that we know without having the minute details. And to the brother in the bathing suit, I don't remember your name. Brandon. So when you were talking about our businesses, us having black-owned businesses, and space being made for that to happen, right? Okay, hold on. So now, and then you're given the statistics as far as the neighborhoods, about the community, you know, the black community not having opportunity within the community, right? So we just had 2 black-owned businesses closed, double minority, black women on Academy Street, right? These women did something. They took spaces that were there, actually holes in the wall, and made it beautiful. They were working hard on it. Now, you know, I'm a realist, and I like to give it to us for practical living. So my question is this. If you have the black folk that are working hard to have a black-owned business, and they're not supported by a black administration, okay? And why do I say that? There's one person, Councilwoman MacGyver, who actually paid to use the space for that. She wanted to have an event there, and other folks with a budget wanted stuff for free. This is what's happening in our community. So the true meaning of support is you pay the money to keep the businesses thriving. So if our black administration is not supporting the black businesses, then the businesses will close. So what are we to do in that sense? Also, when you have Paramount, this company that's buying up all of these properties with no checks and balances, they come into the building where these businesses have been here 10, 15 years. The new businesses that are here, they come in and they want to charge our minorities, not just the black, but there's another minority being charged $8,000 a month for a space, okay? We're being charged this astronomical amounts of money when there are no checks and balances. How are these deals being done? Now, I've heard some things, I'm not gonna bring it up right now, but my question is, the very things that you're talking about, we have, literally, double minority, black-owned, women who worked hard for these spaces and have not been supported by their very own. How are we supposed to make it when we're supposed to stand together? We're here on MLK Day. His words were, we as Negroes have to stand together. It's always the right time to do the right thing. We use these quotes, but we do not live them. This is my city. Born and bred, our seniors. Blood, sweat, and tears keep this city going. But we're giving 25 and 30-year tax abatements and tax exemption to these monopolies that are coming in here and swallowing us up. How are we supposed to do the things that you're telling us to do when we are not being supported?
Who want to take the question? Her question is, how can that happen? Let me say this. Let me say this. She asked a very, very important question. Let me finish this. And you can absolutely tell that she has been emotionally and psychologically disappointed in a behavior that she sees that is not aligned with the rhetoric nor what we say. Now let me say this. Let me say this. She has a right to have a passion around that question. And that passion has come forward. This kind of forum is the reason, therefore, she needs to be here and raise what she just said. Because if you once don't relate to those who can help, and the enemy then, quote, isolate you, he will then terminate you. So it's important that she be here to raise the question that she just raised. It is important that she be here to raise the question that she just raised. Because that's what's talked about at the kitchen table. That's what's talked about. And so let's expose it. Let's put it out there. Is that right? And let's therefore talk to it. And let's get some feedback from it. And let's attempt to address it. Because she raised several questions there, and I'm going to throw this to the panel. The first one is centered around the notion that she does not believe that her own community is supportive of black businesses. And what Steve just said is that that's one of the reasons a lot of our black businesses don't survive, is because we don't patronize our own. You cannot have economic liberation until you have psychological liberation. Crabs in the barrel won't work, right? So let's now throw it to the panel. Let's see then, let's get some feedback. Brandon, you want to?
Sure. It used to be a time when black folks, we only had our own to buy from. We couldn't go into other communities and purchase because it was against the law. And so we had to create our own. We had to create our own. I remember growing up, and my father taught me that there was a store in Chester, Pennsylvania, not in the Deep South, in Chester, Pennsylvania, that he could not shop at because of the color of his skin. And I think what has happened is that over time we have our success has made us forgot our history, and we sometimes feel like buying our own is inferior to buying from something else. So what I do is, yeah.
But man, I'm sorry, we understand that. I'm talking about from the administration level, those that have the power.
Let him finish now. We got your question. I know, but we're going to go to someone else too. Just give him a chance.
So I'm not sure.
Let's be respectful.
And sister, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. I'm not sure what administration, but let me tell you what we have done. Within the first 60 days of this administration, that Governor Murphy was elected. Why I'm so happy to be a part of this panel. That man right there, John Harmon, and the man sitting next to you, Steve and Randall. We've all worked together, particularly John Harmon and I, on the issue of black businesses. In the state of New Jersey, you cannot, and Charles Williams, raise your hand, Charles. Charles Williams, I'm not sure if you all know Charles. Charles is, and sometimes we gotta know the legends in our community. Charles Williams is a legend in our community. He's a policy legend. And he will tell you that you cannot have a set-aside program, Randall, in the state of New Jersey because it's against the law. It's against the law. So the first 60 days of this administration, this governor, in order for you to have a set-aside program, you have to have what is known as a disparity study. And in order for you to have a disparity study, the state gotta basically commission one. If you have a disparity study, you then can justify having a set-aside program. And the set-aside program is one of the things that helps African Americans do business with this state. And within the first am I right, Charles? Within the first 60 days of this administration, I will tell you this governor announced publicly that we are going to have a disparity study. And in addition, we hired the first chief diversity officer. Her name is Hester Agadosi, to ensure that we have a disparity study in 2019. Right now, when we took office, the state of New Jersey contracted 0.1%. That's how many zeros, economists? 0.1% is 2 zeros before the 1, correct? Yes. 1 0 before the 1. 0.1% of contracts for going to African Americans. 0.1%. 0.1%. So I will tell you that things are changed. And because of that man right there, John Harmon, who pushed policy to change that, we're going to have a disparity study, which means that we're going to have a set-aside programs for minority businesses in this state.
Randall, thanks a lot, Doc. Randall, you want to also, and then I have a comment. I want to come right at what she just said, but I want to make sure the panelists, though, have an opportunity. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to come at it too.
Listen up, everybody.
So I've been a business owner in Newark for 11 years now, and I've been a New Jersey business owner for 25 years, as I mentioned before. I have found New Jersey to be one of the worst environments for supporting black business, hands down. One of the absolute worst. And I grew up in New Jersey, so I can say that as somebody who's born and raised here, educated here at Rutgers, owned a business here, and let me say this, that I'll tell a quick story, just quick. You know, after I won The Apprentice, I said, here's a good idea. Let me see if I can get some business in New Jersey. I've got a name, reputation. Let me go around to the mayors, talk to elected officials, see if I can get some contracts. So I spent an entire year talking to mayors of East Orange, Irvington, Newark. Take your pick. What did I end up with? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I run a multi-million-dollar business, and I asked the question, how much of my revenue comes from New Jersey? The answer is 0. A multi-million-dollar business headquartered in Newark, I had 0 of my revenue coming from New Jersey. That is symptomatic of a deep problem that has been in New Jersey for decades of black officials in black cities not investing in black business. And that's real. That's just real. Now, it could sound like I'm complaining, but I'm doing well. I'm not complaining, I'm just keeping it real. So until we vote with our dollars to do 2 things, support our businesses, which gets back to the psychological piece that I know you're going to get back at because I know how you think.
Yep.
And then the second piece is we have to hold people accountable and or elect or take out people who are going to invest in our businesses. It's that simple.
Now, see,
it is that simple. Are you feeling me?
Now,
there we go.
See what Randall just said.
Don't let the soup fool you.
Everybody, let's bring it down. Let's bring it down. That sister put on the table 99% the reason we don't need to have a Dr. King Day where we sing songs and do footstomping. We need to have a Dr. King Day to come at the issues that Dr. King dealt with when Dr. King was here. This is what we need to do. See, this is the stuff we avoid, but we have to learn how to therefore crack the code and work the issue and kind of move the emotions out of the way so that we can get at what we need to get at. Now, what Randall just said is the real deal. If you don't get what you need, then you need to make sure that whoever needs to support you in it ain't there and you help get somebody there who's going to do it. Now, here's the other thing. Let me say this. Here's the other thing. We do need to have something in place where when African American businesses are suffering or about to do what you just said, something happens where you can bring it to a forum where we can bring some black businesses and some mayors and some folks around the table and say, this is what's going on. What can we do to therefore help bail this sister out and to do blank blank, right? Because if you don't have something like that, people will suffer in silence.
So is there and let me just play devil's advocate for 1 second, not being in church and playing devil's advocate. But let me ask a question. And I think we have to be careful, and I may get beat up by saying this, because I know a lot of the elected officials, and I know their commitment
Right.
I know their commitment to black businesses.
Right.
And I know their commitment because I've seen them work to help black businesses. And I think we have to be very careful. I have to be very careful that we use forums to beat up on our own. And I'll say this straight up. That we use forums to beat up on our own instead of looking at there may be several reasons why a business did not do well. Instead of blaming it in one source, Charles, and Vesey.
And let me say this right here.
That's what I'm saying.
Let me say this.
Because we can't say.
I'm gonna answer it.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna help. I'm gonna answer it. I'm gonna answer it. Let me help. The question that the sister raised and what Randall said is not to demonize anything or anybody.
Right.
It's not. It is simply to say this, and that is when you have a situation that is not working, you need to have at least some way of bringing individuals in the community together to determine what is the path and how do you work it. There's no question about it, and Doc, you're right.
Yeah.
There might be several reasons why a business does not fail.
Absolutely.
It could be lack of marketing. It could be lack of access to capital. It could be, quote, nobody will patronize it. There's several reasons why that could happen. But I don't know right now of a forum, and I want somebody to help me, where someone can go like that and bring something to the table where there's some dialogue and discussion that will take place in terms of how do we need to go about trying to help this, work this, whatever the case might be.
Isn't that why we have Newark Economic Development Corporation?
Sister Bessie said, isn't that why we have Newark Economic Development Corporation? Do people actually go there? Have you heard about that?
Oh, absolutely. And let me say this. Since you asked that question about that, there was a situation with one of the particular owners that I'm talking about, and again, it could be if it was MLK up here not doing the thing, and he was an administrator, it would be the same thing for me. So sure. It's not personal to any one person.
Sure.
It's about the position and the people. So, and they continue to try to reach out to CEDC and all of this for like months. And this was like before the opening of the business itself.
Okay.
And by the time, and the method they had to go to actually get a response, I'm not gonna talk about it, but the business was just about done. The help that they needed, they had to figure it out how to get it done by the time they even got back to it.
Okay.
And this is what happens consistently.
Bessie, will you do me a favor? Because I don't want to hold up the whole thing. Yeah. Can you try to get with her, you and Mildred, and let's see what that is so that, go right ahead. No, she raised a question. We can't solve it here.
Right.
Go right ahead. Give her a mic, please.
Yes.
I was brought to tears as she spoke.
Question.
So anyway, it's not a question, but it's a comment to it. The issue is the infrastructure. There are a ton of programs. Yes, there are. There are a lot of programs out there. Can I tell you, I personally have participated in at least 5 of them, and recently just applied for a new one. But the problem still is that the infrastructure is not there. You can go to the classes all you want. Yeah. Right now, my business is still moving every year. We have grown revenue, et cetera, but I should be given the number of children in this community for the business that I have, which is doing STEM enrichment programs for young people at an affordable rate. I have no place to do the programs other than going into the schools, which is a whole other issue. And I have done some work with the city, but the infrastructure, again, working with many of the organizations, even within the city departments, is not there. They do not know how to do purchase orders. One department knows one thing, one department says something else, and you still can't get paid on time. So there are a lot of things, when you talk about the monies with NCEDC, I participated in 2 NCEDC programs, and I'm going to speak specifically to the storefront program. I got into the program thinking that the city was going to take the storefronts that were around the city that were dilapidated and give them and teach us how to do it, and then put us in those at an affordable rate.
What they did was create a whole bunch of flea markets.
Monica.
So
Now,
the
her business is
infrastructure
what
there.
now? What is your
Now,
business?
what ward you in? Whoa.
Yeah.
What ward you in? What are you talking about?
I'm in the South Ward, but I do business across the entire city. I had to go out of the city.
And what's your
into
business, ma'am?
Livingston,
Yeah,
What is your business?
Bricks for Kids.
Bricks for
Brick City
Kids.
Bricks for Kids. We do STEM enrichment programs for children. We teach coding. We teach robotics.
And you're looking for a location?
Schools. Absolutely.
Okay, well, you know what?
But
I'm
the
glad you
rent
came
in
today.
Newark, I can't get a space for 42
Okay.
thousand square foot doesn't make it affordable for the people I need to serve.
Whoa. Here's what I'm going to say to that. Here's what you're in what ward now?
South Ward.
Here's what we're going to do. No. I'm going to help you with this. I'm going to have Pastor Bartley to work with you so that you can
I've
have
worked
some
with Pastor
space.
Bartley.
Did you
I've
get
had
any
several
space?
meetings with Pastor
Did
Bartley.
you get any space?
I'm not.
That's not a conversation for him.
As a for-profit business, no, I am not
Mildred
there.
said she will definitely work
As a
talk to you.
for-profit business, I'm not there. There are nonprofits that are doing their own programs there, and I have worked with some of them.
Okay.
But no, we are, it's
Okay.
difficult.
So Sister Crump said she'll work with you.
See me
Okay.
after the meeting.
It's infrastructure. It's not that the fellas aren't there, it's just that having the people
We
paying
heard you.
attention to detail.
We heard you. You said that before, that we don't have they don't have infrastructure. Next question. Our solutions. This gentleman has had his hand up. Over here. Go right ahead.
Well, my name is Pastor Glenn Drummer, and I'm glad to be here. I like what he said, what you said about the pastors should get together about this cannabis stuff. We have too much crime in the city, and we have our mayor pushing the city forward and stuff. I'm with the Clergy Alliance. I graduated from the Clergy Alliance last April
Bless you.
under Dr. Roundtree. I'm a pastor, and I work with the clergy, and in the communities we see a lot of drug, traffic, and I'm also a business person. I graduated from Rising Tide Business Academy. I have my own business, and what I'm trying to do with my ministry and stuff is like all together. But like what you said earlier, Pastor Jefferson, about the pastors should get together to combat the cannabis being sold in the community. We don't need that in the community. We have enough drugs in the community without people making a business to sell marijuana. And also, we like the lady, I felt her when she was talking. We as black people, we don't support one another, and you said, we try to sweep stuff under the rug. We need to stop trying to sweep stuff under the rug, because when you sweep stuff under the rug, you got a pile of garbage under the rug. We need to take the rug, lift the rug up, and sweep the garbage out from under the rug. I was born in 1964.
You can kind of cut it short, because we got some more.
Yeah, but
Please, if y'all don't mind,
I
please.
just celebrated a birthday, and Martin Luther King was born. I was born 4 years old when Dr. King was assassinated. So I'm proud to be here on Dr. King Day. But we need to come together with these businesses and all this other stuff. We need to get together as a community.
We got you. Amen. There's a hand right there.
We have a hand right here, Pastor.
There's a
We have a
hand.
hand right here.
Where? Okay. There's a hand right there. And then we're going to go back there. Shh. Listen.
Good afternoon.
Question, comment?
Okay. I've been presenting a proposal for the past couple of years related to reducing crime at a very cost-effective way. President Obama, with the help of the Democratic Party, submitted a large block of money that permitted inner cities to put up cameras to reduce crime for free. Now, the city of, I have a proposal here, I'm hoping to give you a copy of this. The city of East Orange actually tried to implement that policy, okay? Crime in East Orange has been reduced by over 70% in the past 10 years as a direct result of cameras. They have also tested this policy within the city of Newark in certain locations. Every single location that they've tested it at, they have reduced crime. Now, the chief of police has offered to give me a lollipop and put a camera on my block. Okay, I don't want a camera on my block. I'm
So
a homeowner.
let me ask-
Am I
let me-
homeowner? My home.
Let me ask you something. First of all, we can't start a business in the forum today. And all I'm
This is
saying
not a
is.
business. I'm talking about.
Okay, so if you have
reducing crime, with all due respect, reducing crime
Got it.
improves the environment for businesses.
No.
Okay.
I'll take the proposal.
He's gonna take the proposal, sir. He's gonna take the proposal. Now, let me just say this. Shh, everybody, let me say this. Don't show up just today to kind of get your point in. You gotta be a part of the broader community and be a part of, quote, other things that are happening in the community. I wanna say this, because sometimes people show up to kind of, get their one point in, and you don't see them because they wanna use a forum.
That's right.
You gotta be involved in the broader community. You gotta be in some church, you gotta be in some organization, you gotta be here and not just show up to kind of say blank blank.
That's right.
All right? So at the end of the day, he's gonna work with him there. But you can't exploit situations either. You can't just exploit situations. So let's go to this question right here, right over here. Go ahead, madam. Go right ahead.
So, I have a few comments and 2 questions. To the gentleman over there, who spoke about the set aside and what needs to be done to actually request that.
That was
we
Dr. Green.
had several set aside, disparities reports done in the city. I'm gonna say one, we had 2 with Rutgers, one in 2007, and one just recently under the Clem studies with Trout, Mr. Trout, David Trout. We also had one recently with the New Jersey Institute of Social Justice, and we also had one with the school board construction. And I must say to you, the results that came back with the disparities and what's going on with the blacks and the local contracts, totally unacceptable.
Absolutely.
Totally unacceptable.
Absolutely.
I also want to say to the gentleman who was on the panel, Mr. Steve, the last time you was here, you was excellent. You gave a black print for our success, and it's sad that it's coming from another person of an ethnic group giving us a print. Randall and Mr. Harmon, y'all excellent as well. But you came up with a black print that, it's self-explanatory.
No, she's right. Black print.
But I want to say,
All right. It's a print.
It's a
also,
Go ahead.
our success. So, but I want to say to the Reverend, I was at the last MLK celebration, and I want to ask you, what happened to the Job and Business Equitable Commission that you said you were going to establish?
Right.
You remember that?
Absolutely.
And I want to know what happened to that, because we still need to have that, because we need something that's coming from the community. Because as you know, that the politicians do what they do, and no offense, all right? Because you said we're not gonna keep blaming, right? But some people need to be blamed. We're gonna keep it not the no blame right now. You said that you needed something from the community. We need this Job and Equitable Commission established from the community base.
She raised up.
We
Hey,
need that.
babe, you're right
And I
on.
want to say the last question. Why are the Essex County elected officials, health officials, black churches, and black organizations silent about the Newark water scandal and the homeless epidemic that's happening here in the city?
Okay.
Question mark.
All right. So you got about 9 other questions there. Okay, let's try to come at that. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
So just 2 comments on the black print that you talked about. What we did do since the last MLK Day, and Derek's been part of this, have worked with the governor to develop an economic plan for the state that includes many of the elements that we talked about in the last MLK Day event.
That's right.
So at a state level, I think some of these actions are you're going to start seeing those as that plan goes from plan to execution. Because that just came out in the fall. And I think it's important to understand that and what the governor and what's happening at the state level. I would say your point about a equality commission or a group coming together to me is important because, again, back to the messages that I just had, this is not just a black community problem. And you know, I will keep saying that we have to draw in the broader community to address these issues and to understand the passion and hunger for success that, you know, I'm even hearing tonight. I think that, you know, that has to be something that the broader community understands and rallies around. So your point is absolutely correct. We need something like that to push the ball forward.
I will also add to what Steve said. I can't tell you how excited I am to tell you that because of Steve's research, the McKinsey Group and its team, John Harmon and others, Mother Mildred Crump and others in this room, Deborah, the governor has established an internal work group. I actually chair the group on wealth disparities in the African American community. And I want to give you some stats that Steve did not bring up, but has talked about before, along with the Institute for Social Justice. Net wealth for white families in New Jersey, $250,000. Black Latino families, $7,500. African American families, $5,900. In order for us, we can have these forums all day long. But if we don't get into the nitty-gritty with measurable objectives, and that's why, I don't know your name, but I invite you. Manera?
Yes.
Manera.
Munera.
Munera. Let's talk after, and I'm going to give you some information on the internal work group. It is a coalition of many of the state agencies figuring out what they are doing and having suggestions to address the issue of disparities. One of the biggest issues, I'll tell you right now, that we're dealing with is housing. The fact that during the housing crisis, first of all, $1 trillion left the economy, the entire economy. We all know that a lot of that was our dollars because we lost our homes. And anything that hurts America is going to hurt Black America 20 times worse. Okay? So we have to look at what happened and Steve, I'm telling you, the McKinsey Group has been working very closely with us. We have measurable objectives that Steve just talked about, checking them off to make sure that in 3 years you can say, at least from this administration, because remember, we have had 8 years of Chris Christie ignoring black people. And more than that, right, Bessie? More than 8 years. More than 8. And so it takes daily. When I tell you, Randall, you know what I'm talking about. A daily grind of someone focusing on these issues. Because black people, if we don't focus on it, if we don't have leaders that focus on it, we get pushed to the side. And I'll stop.
And so, Manir, let me also say this, and this is absolute key. First of all, I want to thank you for acknowledging the fact that something was stated, and therefore here are some issues, and here's the real deal. The real deal is that when you turn on the TV, and the governor and I exchanged back and forth on this, the reason he definitely wanted to be here, except for the fact that his wife's sister passed away and he had to go to the service.
That's right.
But let me say this right here. We'll get, if you will, a news conference on this announcement, and a news conference on this announcement, and something get announced over there. When I have tons of people who come up to me in the community,
that's right,
wanting to know the details and what's going on with X, Y, Z. The purpose for today, and as I said this to the governor, he wanted to be here. Of course, Menendez was here, and all of these folks are here. What we have to start doing is, quote, coming together and stand with something and making sure that information, progress, and measurable results are being reported out on. And then the community got to come out to hear what's going on when you invite them out so that they will know what progress is being made so that you can consistently follow up with that. That's the reason we didn't have, if you will, the foot stomp and the handcuff. No, what we need to do is talk like we're talking right now and have strong conversation back and forth. And so I want everybody to commend you and this young lady that was over there, because that's the kind of conversation we can't have just one time. We got to have that continuous dialogue so that we can make some progress. All right? Now, I'm going to close this down in about 5 minutes. Go ahead. God bless you. Oh, God bless you. God bless you. And we're going to stay focused. We're going to keep going on this. It's going to be some tough stuff. And you're going to have some individuals, therefore, kind of taking pot shots at others. But you can't make progress if indeed you take the pot shots. You got to be in the game to win the game.
That's right.
Right? And so we're going to keep doing this because it's imperative. It's imperative that we connect. Am I right? Okay, one more hand back here.
Hi. Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Pastor Jefferson. Reverend James Moore, I may be very wrong as far as my figures, my estimation of figures like number 45 is. But in the city of Elizabeth, New Jersey, from the courthouse on Broad Street,
You from
all the way
Elizabeth?
to the waterfront.
You Elizabeth?
I'm from Roselle, next town over.
Oh, okay. You
work in Elizabeth.
All right.
Yes. Practically 95% of all the businesses are owned by Hispanics. They have a go-to place. They have a viable go-to place to support their businesses and to establish their businesses called the Puerto Rican Action Board and Proceed. And my concern is that we as the black community don't have a viable go-to resource location for training, for guidance, for direction. When they talk about the Small Business Administration, well, where's the location? When it talks about organizations that are helping to establish businesses, check your business plan, and to reassess and reevaluate if you fail, things like B'nai B'rith, which the Jewish community, they'll have you come before their board and present your business plan, and they'll scrutinize and they'll say, well, we don't think it's going to work. But if they think it's going to work, they'll help you with the funding. They'll show you how to get it. And if you fail, they'll help you to reevaluate and reassess where things went wrong and put you back on board. And we need some viable resource go-to places, like, for example, what address?
We got the question.
What address can I go to tomorrow?
Bingo.
To get some guidance.
We're going to answer you. Go ahead.
I think, first of all, I've enjoyed everything that was said here, right? So to your question, sir, Elizabeth is Union County? Yes. Okay, so you have United County Economic Development Corporation.
Write that down.
Which is based in, it's in the county, but they have satellite offices all over the place. They have. Okay, so there's one in Kane, right?
There's a councilman right there.
Okay, but at the end of the day, sir, they have resources to provide you with technical assistance, help you with a business plan. They also do microloans, right? But I'm just gonna stay with them for now. The short answer is the resource exists. In addition, you have small business development centers in almost every community college in the state that provide, and these organizations provide these resources at no cost. It's the United County Economic Development Corporation, as well as the Small Business Development Centers. You can Google it, but there's a guy named Mike Miller there. You can tell him John Harmon sent you, but they are dedicated to support you.
Did you get that? Excellent.
All right?
Excellent. So please go there. Sister Bessie?
But Pastor, also the help is the county has some of those programs to help also, and then Newark is. But there's also a disparity study that was done by Essex County College, by the county exec that lays out all the issues. I think it's how old, Charles? Maybe 6 years old? A little older than that. Right. We need to get a copy of that disparity study. And I thought, Mildred, back we had a disparity study done in the city of Newark. We need to take a look at those disparity studies again in the city of Newark, how it impacted on black businesses in the city of Newark. And it laid a time frame out, it laid out structure of how we should be supporting them, and they should be getting contract, because the county is even violating its own contract in terms of African Americans.
Yeah, Brittany got the law passed last year. That's right.
It also occurs to me, and maybe it's just me, that there is a ton of information that exists and help that is there, but we are not taking advantage of a lot of what seem to be in place. Is that just me thinking that? Let me just say this. If nothing else, what I'm hearing from some of this is that we have to find a way to make sure individuals know access, get information, or whatever the case might be.
What is this comfort?
Hold. Let's hear what you all gonna say.
The structure is already in place. You have NAN. So use them. Collect the information, let it be there at the tech world, and let it be distributed out to the community. Because Rutgers University also, Diane's last name?
Hill.
Dr. Diane Hill. They also do proposals. They also write grants to help people with small businesses through Rutgers. And it is free. So we need to just put the information together through NAN.
So it seems as if there's a need for a directory of certain things so people got something where they know where to go and what exists. Is that fair?
That's right.
Is that fair, everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good, Doc.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Because if nothing else, we need to make sure people have access and they know where to go, et cetera, et cetera. Does that help?
Yes.
And Mildred, why don't we take it offline,
Yes.
and why don't we work it at the state level, local level, where work with Steve and his team, so that we come together and we'll produce something where folks can go and know where to get certain info from. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. One more question, we're gonna close it out. Somebody I haven't heard. Hold on. Okay, Deborah just asked, what's the timeline? Good, she's always on it. What's the timeline? What is the timeline?
Deborah, give me a week, only because this is council meeting week. And so I'll be focused on that, but I'll have it in a week. The information.
Deborah just said, can we have something within a month? Here's what I would suggest.
Oh, yeah.
I would suggest that we set a date and come together within a week or so, all of us, key people, we send it out, and we come up with then how we're gonna handle it. Now, do we have everybody's stuff who's here today? How would we get you information? See, once again.
Did people sign in when they came in?
Sister, do me a favor. Pass out some pieces. We'll do it like Flintstone. Pass out a piece of paper.
You got some folks, index cards on the
If
table.
we got index cards, give everybody an index card. This is very important. Put your information down. We're going to send you information out. Does this make sense, everybody? Yeah. This is good. This is good. This is really good.
That lady had a question for you.
This is really good. Pass the cards out. Let's get information. We're going to really continue to follow up on this. Okay, Linda. And Linda, you got a question while they're doing? Please write that information down. Go ahead, Linda.
I'm not sure if it's on. Okay. I think a lot of the questions.
Come on, you can write without talking. Right.
I think a lot of the questions were already asked, pretty much what I had down, and you can let me know if if that is similar to what the young lady had mentioned to you and about the coalition that you're gonna start. She did talk about the homelessness, that is at an all-time high that's here. My question too was about, as a result of the homeless situation and the new housing that is coming up, the qualifications, even to get into those low-income housing, are still really high. So how can we handle that matter? I don't know if anybody's listening.
Name. Put on the card, write your name and your email address. Name and email address. If you have a cell phone, put that down so we can do texting as well. Thank you. Right? Name, email address, and cell phone number. Linda?
Okay, what I was saying was, I wasn't sure if her question to you about the coalition that you're gonna start is one and the same, because I had a concern about the homeless situation that is beginning to be, again, at an all-time high. And also as a result of that, people who are low income, they still have a lot of high qualifications to fit into those brackets. So I just wondered how we can kind of combat that. You either have to be like really low under the income, or you just don't meet it to even be able to qualify for those housing. So I had that question. Another question I had was about age discrimination regarding jobs.
Okay. So age discrimination?
Right.
Okay. And
mental illness, that's really at all-time high as well. Yes.
Okay. What you want us to, what now? Homeless. Mental illness, what else?
Mental illness, that's at an all-time high. I was just wondering if anything was like being addressed regarding that. The age discrimination for jobs is still, it's a big hindrance. So if anybody can help me with that. And I was again saying that the homeless situation is again at the all-time high, and also people who do fit into those low income brackets in terms of being able to, there's a lot of qualifications. Either you have to be extremely low, or you just don't fit into it.
Let me help you with the first one. On the age discrimination, there is a legal process that one must follow in terms of filing whatever it is if you believe you've been, quote, discriminated against by age. Okay? That's a process that you follow with respect to that. With respect to housing, there are regulations. There are regulations. Some of it is driven by income that allows one to therefore be able to apply for certain housing opportunities. Mildred, I'll let Sister Crump them, but you can really, if you don't mind, you can go to them and they will help you in terms of what that criteria is, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm familiar with the criteria.
Okay, so you were saying what? I'm sorry, what now?
Yeah.
What's the problem?
The problem are some of the criteria.
Okay, so you have an issue with the policy. Okay, then what we need to do there is probably try and get with the legislative folks and see if a policy can be changed. Right?
And Doc, some of the housing policy follows, is a great job. I think some of the housing policy follows who is funding. Yes. Who's funding it. So it could be a federal issue. It could be a federal issue. Yes. Particularly if it's HUD funded, then it's a federal issue. And so it is? Okay. Well then those are federal regulations that, and we can talk after about how you impact those federal regulations.
And I was talking about regarding the age discrimination, not already being in a job, but being outside of a job, trying to get into a job.
Yeah.
You're really...
There is no question, you're right, Linda. There is no question about the fact, and I was just reading an article the other day, where indeed in a number of companies, they are recruiting individuals that fit in certain age profile, whatever it is. And that's something that we got to put on the radar screen, and we have to deal with it. But you got a number of persons who now are living longer. Retirement is not what it used to be.
That's right.
And as a result of that, we got more elderly people who are entering back into the job market trying to get that job. And meanwhile, you got other younger folks that are coming out, and these companies therefore interviewing, and they're not always hiring individuals in a certain age range. Now, I'm not saying that's right, but that's the reality of what's going on. Everybody in here have seen some of that happening?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't like that. We don't like that. But at the end of the day, that's what some of them are doing.
Just a quick thought for those of you who are in the age range that we are now discussing. It used to be that maturity was an asset. That's not true anymore. However, the measurement and the opportunity is still there. I do believe it was Elder Green who mentioned HUD. There are regulations that trickle down to the local communities. And very often, and that's because a lot of people come to me for advice on Mondays. You all know I have open house on Mondays. And you've been there so many times, you don't have to come anymore. That's my friend. So what I'm going to do over the next few days is I'm going to try and have it done within a week, Pastor, to get some of those publications and have them available. And they can just come to the council and pick them up.
Amen. Amen. Let's come on. First of all, let's give the panel a hand. Let's give all the panelists that came today a hand coming out. And then I want you to give yourselves a hand. Come on, I want you to give yourselves a hand. We've had some very spirited, down to earth, passionate questions. We've had some very, very honest dialogue back and forth. We got some things that we definitely need to do. We got some great information that went out. I want to say this is not an end, this is a process. And this process won't work if the community won't engage.
That's right.
I want to repeat. Shh. The process won't work if the community don't engage. I can't tell you the number of conversations I have with people up here where at the end of the day when I'm asking them about what they're working and stuff that they're doing, where they're not getting responses from the community. I mean, a good one is this marijuana thing that we talked about. So at the end of the day, we gotta have engagement. I know it was cold today, but given the issues that exist, how many people in here believe that we should have had some people who wanted to engage and you get the information that we're talking about, right? It's a two-way street is what I'm saying. It's a two-way street. But give yourselves a round of applause for indeed for braving the weather and coming out today. And I want to thank you for it. All right? Come on, let us all stand. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. Come on, no, we're not, well, you in a Baptist church, you leave with a benediction.
That's right.
I wish I had a hallelujah up in here. You know, it's two things you have in a Baptist church. You take up an offering. Sister McCarthy, we're not going to take up one today, but cold, but we're going to have a benediction. And I want to have Dr. Green give this benediction.
All right.
People forget that there is a preacher.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's a preacher, right? He's a preacher. And let me just acknowledge a few folks. Randall brought his daughter today to be a part of this setting in order that she might hear what's going on. She's in the 6th grade. Come on, raise your hand, honey. Raise your hand. She is in the 6th grade. And Steve's wife is here today. Come on, come on. I know I don't want to embarrass. Just raise your hand. And then Derek's wife is here today. That's why he was so indeed engaged. Normally he's sitting back, but he had to do what he did today. Celebrated 24 years of blissful marriage. God bless you.
And a birthday the same week.
And a birthday.
Before we close, you know, we oftentimes take folks for granted, and I just want to praise God for Reverend Dr. David Jefferson. Amen. Let's give him a round of applause for bringing us all together, and also our co-moderator. And and I've said this and I'll say it again loudly, we are blessed to have the greatest council president in the country,
That's right.
Mother Mildred Crump.
That's right.
And to our the panelists as well, thank you. All hearts and minds are clear. Father God, we thank you for this beautiful day. God, it's cold outside, but our hearts are warm. We've had deep discussion. We've had problems and solutions and concerns. And God, you have heard them all.
Yes.
We thank you for this venue. We thank you for these minds on the panel. We thank you for the families represented. We thank you for the great city of Newark with its great mayor. We thank you for the communities here. We thank you for the folks that came from all around this state. God, we thank you for the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
God, we thank you for his sacrifice. We thank you for Coretta's sacrifice.
Yes.
God, we thank you for he could have had a life of comfort and convenience, but he instead exchanged that for a life of service. And God, we ask that you keep his dream, his vision alive in our daily work. In your humble name we pray. Amen.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Be safe.